All right, let's go Discord game of the week. Don't forget, you guys can join our Discord. Links in the description, and you can vote on every single game. The closest game we had, though, was Tampa Bay Bucs at the Green Bay Packers. Packers favored by 3.5 here. Packers coming off a loss to Cutlets on Monday night.
Tommy Cutlets.
And Bucs, man, back in first place in the NFC South at 6-7. And the Packers are sitting here at 6-7 with the same record in third place in the NFC North,
along with everybody else in the league.
How much do the Packers? They were trending, man. They were in the right direction. This is why, like, when I say they're trending this way, that way, that stuff doesn't really matter at all.
It's all chaos. Like, it's all noise. This is the thing. We spend the entire time, us and everybody else, like we at least try and have the discipline to wait for like a 3-week trend before you make the shouty shows are just like week to week. Going,
I just saw it.
They're good. They're bad.
They had 2 good plays. Everything's changed.
We try and have the self-discipline to be like, after 3 weeks, oh, look, he's turned a corner. He's moving in the right direction. And then it still doesn't mean anything. Like, it's crazy that it's such small sample sizes in the NFL that nothing necessarily means anything in the course of a season.
That's it. Wrap it up.
Nothing means anything. It's all irrelevant.
Make our picks and get out of here.
It's all crap.
Nothing.
Nobody knows anything. It's ridiculous.
I had a quick theory while we're on this quick tangent here. I had a quick theory that came to me yesterday. Why is there so much parity? Why is almost every team here in Week 15 in the playoff picture? Well, first, because they extended the season. Second, though, I do think the NFL. Remember when we were doing all of our preview shows last year, and we were looking at everybody's depth chart, and we're like, nobody. Like, a lot of starters are coming back. Nobody has a lot of big moves to make. There's not a lot of big free agents. I think there's a lot of parity from a team building standpoint around the NFL right now. I think there's not just parity in the NFL and the way they do schedules and everything, but I think there's team building parity. I don't think there's a ton of teams the last few years that have drafted horribly. I think teams are drafting better.
So this is the thing.
I think the free agency has been like kind of tightened up a little bit, and teams are keeping their good players, and I think there's team building parity right now, and that's why so many teams are 6-7, 7-6, and in the same range.
I think that's where the big change has been in the last decade is the number of teams that are marks has diminished.
Can I explain why I think that could be? PFF. Honestly.
Okay.
Not just the grades or the data or whatever. Everybody has access to every single play, watching plays, scouting, evaluating. The tools are better than ever, including PFF data and PFF grades and ways to evaluate players. I really think because that's been more prevalent the last 5 or 10 years, that has helped tighten things up from a team building standpoint.
I just think all of the elements here, the last couple of drafts we've looked at it and you're like, there haven't been these drafts where you're like, what is this team doing? This is madness. This is idiocy. Like, this is completely, you come out of almost every draft with almost every team. You're like, I kind of like it. I got with, I get the idea of what they're doing, even if I didn't agree with specific picks. It feels like we've lost the time where a team is just out here like blindfoldly, randomly picking guys that are 8 rounds ahead of where they're supposed to go, And then free agency, the same thing. Like, we've kind of gone past the point where teams are just throwing stupid money at random people for no reason, or like literal salary cap hell where they've had to hemorrhage the entire roster because they got themselves in a bad spot. These things are all kind of gone. I think a lot of the success previously came from other teams exploiting the teams that got themselves into stupid situations. Now teams aren't doing that, so most teams are in the same spot, and the things that differentiate them are, great quarterbacks or great coaching or whatever.
Sorry for bringing up a Wednesday topic, but it just kind of hit me, and I'm, as we're looking at a 6-7 versus 6-7 Bucs and Packers game, which we're breaking down right now. I think that's a big part of things here. So Bucs won a couple games in a row here. Big game last week against the Falcons. There's still, Baker Mayfield making clutch plays down the stretch here. That's kind of been the Bucs' MO. They're not scoring a ton of points. The defense has kept them in a lot of games. Whereas the Packers, again, a disappointing game where it looked like they had flipped their switch. Jordan Love looks like an elite quarterback for a multiple week stretch. Defense was playing better. What are we going to get from Green Bay now at home against the Bucs? Can they bounce back from the disappointment Monday night?
Yeah, so I don't think it explains all of it, but somebody tweeted me a play, and I looked up a few more. Like some of the all-22 views of Jordan Love's throws against the Giants, you could see the wind having a pretty major impact. It's one of those things that I think sometimes we don't get to appreciate how big a factor it is because you're not there and the camera doesn't always pick it up, particularly the sideline view or the TV view. But some of those passes he put in the air moved a lot in the air and looked like horrendous ball location when actually the location might have been okay had the wind not taken it. And
I'm telling you, I think we need to do those adjustments more.
But the problem is, so it's not necessarily, it's not a constant, right? Like you could sort of look at that and you go, well, it didn't affect Cutlets. Cutlets is out there carving through the wind left, right, and center. That wasn't a problem. But if the wind is gusting and it gusts at the wrong time, one pass is going to go awry, the other pass isn't, right? So it's a difficult thing.
I view it as, that's why I think dome adjustments are more important than outdoor, because the dome doesn't have those elements.
Right.
You just never have to deal with it, and you know that there's a consistency there. All I'm saying is, look, I know that like there's fun memes that you can make about Bears quarterbacks historically and how bad their production is. Mm-hmm. Part of it's playing in Chicago.
Sure.
Not all of it.
The Windy City.
It is difficult throwing in Chicago. Maybe we've underrated Eli Manning's career because we look at the stats too much, and he actually, because he's thrown in the elements.
I did think that during that game.
Right? I'm just saying, like, I'm telling you, that is a thing. Playing in Buffalo, New England, the New Jerseys matters versus playing in a dome. Playing in Chicago probably matters, and we should adjust our perspective if we're only looking at stats and production.
And, of course, you've also got, he was missing Christian Watson. He was missing Luke Musgrave. Like, he didn't have a couple of his primary targets in that game. So, look, I'm not saying it explains all of it. There's still a bunch of plays where you're like, why are you specifically trying to make the throw from an off-balance position falling away? Like, you know, this is not good technique, and you're not being forced into it. You're voluntarily throwing without good technique in some of these plays. But I do wonder if it means you could see a quick bounce back next week, you know, if he just doesn't get a bunch of passes taken by the wind or, you know. So I don't think it necessarily means that the previous few games were a complete fabrication and didn't represent any kind of step forward in the right direction. This might have just been a random bad day at the office in a trend that is pointing upwards.
Bucs are running the ball a little bit more effectively the last couple of weeks after just being horrible for about a year and a half. Packers defense has kind of been hit or miss against the run. I think there might be some opportunities there. But again, I think
been hit or miss overall. Packers defense.
Overall, it really has been. I mean, there were weeks where it's like they were outstanding up front, and other times it looked like they were trying to fit the run with four people, you know?
I think they're particularly bad situationally. Like, I think overall the defense, a lot of Packers fans hate the current, like, defensive coaching setup and all that kind of thing, right? And it's like the overall production is not bad. It's fine. They're middle of the pack somewhere. No pun intended. But when the situation gets important, it seems to, like, that's when they have their worst play. Like, even against the Giants, right? They end up going ahead in that game. Jordan Love turns it on in the fourth quarter, as his wont, and then they go crazy soft with the coverage, right? They back off. They play like off-man coverage on a critical drive where Cutlets has to move the length of the field. It's like that's too easy. You can't do that. You need to be more aggressive. You need to get either up in a guy's face or you need to play some zone and, you know, have your eyes on the football. You can't do what they did on that drive, and that's what they seem to do consistently in those situations.
Are you saying it's going to come down to another Baker Mayfield game-winning drive? That's how the Bucs have played. A lot of tight games and relying on Baker's grit at the end of the game.
Yeah, and I'm saying that if it does, there's a pretty good chance he comes good again because Joe Barry's defense is just going to get too conservative.
All right, let's make some picks here. Packers by 3.5. Looks like I did the weather check because it's December in Green Bay. It's just in the 40s. Just like Buffalo, 40s.
How many eighths cloud cover?
We didn't get to that. I appreciate the meteorologists and the other people, the pilots that jumped into the mentions.
Pilots
in our comments.
Overcast clouds, that's complete, right? That's 8/8. Was what he was saying, I think.
Yeah, I think it's clouds.
So 8/8 cloudy and in 39 according
beautiful
to this.
December weather. So Packers by 3.5. Where are you going with this one?
Okay, I'm going to give them one shot and buy into the Green Bay the Jordan Love thing. The wind was a problem last week. It's not going to be a problem this week.
I thought you were going to say Tampa Bay.
Don't let me down,
Buy
Jordan.
into them. It's going to be a fascinating stretch here.
I told you before, I have already jumped off. I'm never buying back into Baker Mayfield again. I've already out. I'm not.
I've noticed you had plenty of times to jump back on here.
Not doing it.